Welcome to Chaos, Courage and Coffee, the podcast for anyone who's felt like on the outside I'm holding it together, but inside I'm struggling.
And we do it with honesty, heart, and just enough coffee to get through the day.
Hello, Vanessa. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you, Brett. I actually yesterday woke up and thought, right, let's get some stuff done. And I'm not really sure where it came from, but I think it was because there was all these things I was supposed to be doing and I just wasn't doing them. And something inside me I don't know, it was just too, I think it was too many things. And I was like, oh, you're just going to have to do some of these things. So I kind of thought that would be a good topic to talk about, the things that you know what I mean, when you've got those things that you should be doing and you just haven't got on and done them.
I do know what you're talking about. I must confess, I have a few of those myself. And look, to be fair, I don't think anybody really doesn't. I think we prioritize the things that are important to us in the moment. And for different reasons, even though we know we should be doing this thing, we choose to do this other thing instead for whatever reason. And
I
so,
think
yeah,
some people have it worse than others, though, and just really struggle. Like I would like to say, I'm quite an organized person who does get on with things, but really caught myself out because I'm like, why are these things not being done? So yes, I became one of those people who was just ignoring stuff, and that's definitely an issue if it's got a time thing on it. But when it doesn't have a time thing, like if it was something just to do with us, like, oh, I don't know, I must listen to a podcast for some personal development, we can easily put that off.
we can indeed. Or weed the garden because we know the weeds are going to come back.
Yes.
Or doing, where I suppose in our conversation so far we've minimized a little bit by talking about the little things.
Yes.
Weeding the garden, doing the laundry, those sorts of things. But and that might not be such an issue for some people or most people. It's the big things. And I suppose this is where we really need to take it.
Yep.
We're using the little things as an example, but I'm sure some of us, in fact, all of us at some point, avoid the big thing that we know we need to do um, for whatever reason. And maybe that's part of what we're talking about today is why don't we do the thing that we know we should do?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, as I said earlier, for some people, this is a bigger problem than others. To start notching it up, there's that person who doesn't pay a fine, and then it builds up and it builds up, and it's kind of head in the sand business, and it actually can then become such a big problem, it's going to impact on your life.
Mm.
And I am actually quoting I've got two real examples, but one I'm thinking of where it got so big that then the outside body, so be it bailiffs, be it inland revenue, start to take serious action. And like bailiffs, they want to come and take your stuff. So what started out as a small thing that you didn't get to, it isn't just the finance side, it then becomes a bigger thing. And I think this is the important thing. It's okay that we sometimes don't do some of the smaller things, but people who are consistently doing it and doing it with the bigger things that then has a snowball effect, that's the people who need to be listening to this podcast to really, work out how to get on top of it, or work out why are they not doing it? What is it that's going on for them that they are not doing it?
Yeah, I think there can be several things going on, several reasons why not. And I don't think we're going to have time to explore all of those today. But we can certainly start talking about some of the reasons that people don't do the things that they know they're supposed to be doing. And one of those reasons might be fear of consequences, and when we talk about fear, there can be all sorts of different types of fear, I suppose, or the consequences of the fear or what leads to the fear. Might be reputation if people find out. It might be that it makes them feel just uncomfortable or icky inside, and they don't want to face that, or they feel like the thing that they're engaging in is not really them. They might have done the wrong thing in the past, but they don't know how to resolve it. It Yeah, there's all sorts of different things going on potentially as to why we don't do the thing.
Yeah, those are really good examples. And it also might be that it's something that's been imposed upon you by someone else. But a common one I come across is because it feels too big a thing and you don't know where to start. And I think that is kind of the key, because starting with a small bit becomes easier than just this big thing. And that's the approach anyway that I tend to take on myself. If this thing isn't getting done, I'm like, okay, well, let's just say, what's the first step you need to do? Or what's one step? It could just be one step. Like, I needed to put something in, some paperwork, and it's got a deadline, and it's sat there for ages, and the deadline's getting closer. And so I thought, okay, go to your method, Vanessa. What's one thing you could do now? If you can't list everything that needs doing, what's one thing? Oh, I need to get that bit of paperwork out. Oh, I need to print that, and start to make some inroads into it.
Yeah, absolutely. It might be, if we're talking about the bailiffs coming or whatever for Inland Revenue or tax office here in Australia, it might be picking up the phone and just making that phone call and say, I don't know what I'm doing. You know, help me. And I know that that can be sometimes embarrassing in and of itself for some people, just asking for help or admitting you don't know or have a problem. But that's going to be the first step,
That
right?
was going back to the fear that you mentioned. There's a big fear. And like you said, it's something deeper about what it means to us, whether it is asking for help, whether it's admitting something. So there is a bigger thing here. There can be a much bigger emotional thing at play. And I don't know if it's worth people looking at what are they frightened of, what's the fear, what's going to happen. Maybe you should look at what's going to happen if I don't do it versus what'll happen if I do it.
Yeah, I like those questions. Um, and we've had this discussion before, I think. There is a technique that we can use in coaching where we start exploring those questions. Um, and it's a series of 4 questions, and it can be really powerful for helping to get people to start taking action. So, the first question, what will happen if I do? What will happen if I don't do the thing? What won't happen if I do, and what won't happen if I don't? And it sounds like it starts to repeat itself a little bit. And answering the second 2 questions, or the questions 3 and 4, can be very challenging, especially number 4. But it can be a really powerful technique to getting people to think about, well, maybe this isn't so bad, or maybe I need to take this particular action. So, and I know we're heading down into that coaching realm, and we're bringing in, I'm just brought in some coaching techniques there, but I think it's worthwhile talking about it because we started with the questions. Um,
Well, what's interesting? I was thinking as you were saying that it does get tricky, by the way, guys. Question number 4 is just messes with your head. We'll have to put the questions out there, although they'll be on the subtitles here. But I was just thinking you might find out it's something you don't have to do. I mean, we've been assuming it's something you have to do. That was what I was thinking. But maybe by going through the questions, you'll think, actually, you know what, in the big scheme of life, maybe it's not that important. And the amazing thing would be to get it out of your mind if you don't have to do it. When you have these things in your head all the time, this, oh, I should be, I should be, I should be, it is so draining. Like, we have enough stress in life. Our stress is up here. And if we're starting it with this whole batch of should do's that are just sitting there bubbling under the surface all the time, it's actually pushing this level up. If we could take those away, this level will come down. So, wouldn't it be great if you go through the questions and go, actually, I can eliminate that one?
it doesn't matter. And what I'm hearing when you talk about how much we've got on our plate, I keep thinking overwhelm. We're right at that threshold perhaps of overwhelm. And that might be And we've talked about it before, but that might be one of the reasons why we don't take those actions, because we feel so overwhelmed. And sometimes if we can remove, ask the questions, remove some of that context, and maybe discard some things, then we can reduce that level of overwhelm. And
You're talking things through is really, really helpful when it's the overwhelm. So I was just having conversation, and it was someone moving house, and of course I've recently moved house ish, and I don't really enjoy it because I get to that overwhelm point where there's so much to do it and you so little time, and what should I do next? And so the conversation I was having this morning was just a chance to air it, talk about it. So all the problems came out, and then we could come up with a, okay, well, these are the problems. What action steps can we take? Because otherwise, I mean, I don't know about other people. If you're a seasoned mover, maybe you don't get this, but I actually reach almost a paralysis where my house is a mess, which makes everything feel messy anyway. And I reach a point and I just don't know what to do next. And then it's easier to do nothing. I'll just go and sit on the sofa and go on the internet. I'll just scroll.
yeah, and I think also sometimes breaking it down into the things we can control, can't control. Understanding that, is this within my control? Is it not? If it is, then what can I do about it? And it's sometimes just, yes, we might have this big problem, but if we can break it down into a little problem, as you said before, what is the first step? Is it picking up the phone? Is it just talking to somebody? Is it sitting down and writing a list of the things we need to do, don't do, or the steps involved in moving?
You brought up a
More,
good point though about the control. So I just want to flag that one
yeah,
because what you might find, this thing that you should be doing, you might actually find there's a chunk that's actually not in your control, and that might be why you're not doing it. So that would be a really worthwhile discovery as well. It'll let you off the hook and it can take it off your mind. You might be waiting for something from somebody else.
yeah, and that's, if you can't control it, then why worry about it? Yes, I'm not saying if it's outside of our control that we forget about it, because obviously it's still important to us, but it can remove or lessen or lighten, I suppose, some of the cognitive load of the stress and the overwhelm that we might be experiencing at that time. So I think it's important. All of these things, nothing that we've talked about is more important or less important than others. I think they're all important tools. It's using them constructively to get the best outcome for us.
Yeah. So I think that's been really helpful. I'm thinking, is there any more we need to add in before we summarize?
I don't think so. There's
Okay.
probably something that we've forgotten in here that we haven't actually covered, but I think a summary at this point might help us identify the thing that's missing.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
So where do we start? We started with uh, the things that we don't do that we know we should do. We started talking about why we don't do some of those things, whether it's fear, procrastination. We didn't really talk about procrastination, but that does come down to it. Sometimes I would rather do this thing than that thing for whatever reason. That might make me feel uncomfortable, might be afraid of consequences, or whatever the case may be. And we looked at some of the strategies. We talked about um, getting it out in the open, whether it's writing a list or talking about it to or with somebody else. Um, what other strategies did we have?
We talked about the questions. So the 4 questions. And even if you don't get to question 4, ask the questions. We also talked about breaking it down into smaller, easier chunks of action steps. What's the first thing I can do?
Yeah. And I think understanding why we are not doing it, which is going back to the reasons, can be really helpful in and of itself. If there's overwhelm involved, then taking a little bit of time out to really look at it and understand what's going on for us can help remove some of that overwhelm, that cognitive load, and can help us feel better so that we can actually take those positive action steps.
And maybe the last thing I'll just put in here is about prioritizing. I think you mentioned the word, but it's worth saying that what we're doing each day is we're prioritizing what we do. But are we prioritizing correctly in terms of, is it just we're doing something else because it's nicer to go and cook my lunch, which I need? Um, and so that I think is a big part, that some people are not so good at the prioritizing of how important is this? When does it need to be done? And I think by going through those questions and what we've said today, you will get to that, um, and see how important it really, really is. I mean, having said that, and this is important with prioritizing really, and especially for my mums, I do prioritize something for me. So it might come up on a list as well. It's not important for you to have 10 minutes break. Actually, yes, it is. So perhaps understanding what's priority is also important. So when I say prioritizing, it's not just the hard and fast list of things to do. It is also building in some time for us. It will make us happier, more efficient, less stressed. And I tell you what, the less stressed and overwhelmed we can be, the more we will get done.
I think you've hit on something really important there. And perhaps it's a topic for another day if we haven't properly covered it already, but prioritizing the right things in our lives, self care, friendships, relationships, rather than things and work and the things that aren't going to keep us warm and take care of us in 20, 50 years.
And it's such a trap. Like, I do a lot of work with parents and couples, and if you don't prioritize your relationship, so with couples having some time together, without distractions. And I was explaining to a mum the other day, because she's got a child who's got kind of been a bit upset by the birth of a new sibling, and she planned a whole day out with him. And I said, well, that's quite a big task. I said, you can just do 2 minutes, literally can be as small as 2 minutes of undivided attention, real quality attention. And if you could do, lots of those, that will save you trying to find a big chunk of time and organizing a whole day out. And I think that would be more beneficial. And so I think we don't really appreciate how much small undivided attention. So this can be for couples, this can be for parent and kid, this could be for anyone. Do that undivided attention. That means your phone is not there. You're not looking at your phone. There's no one else around. You are looking at the person and not thinking what you're going to cook for dinner.
Yes. All right. Is there anything else we need to cover on this one?
I feel we've covered a lot there, and I think there's a lot that people can pull out there. And so, make it a bit of a smorgasbord choice of what strategy you want to try one at a time. So, maybe watch this again, make a note, right? What do I want to try? And then just start and see how it goes for you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Vanessa. This has been a very interesting conversation this morning.
Yeah. And thanks everybody for listening. Thanks for being with us today on Chaos, Courage and Coffee. Remember, thanks for being with us today on Chaos, Courage and Coffee. All out at Remember, once. You're not alone. What part of today's conversation stood out for you? All out at once.
This podcast is about showing up in the mess, not waiting until it's all sorted out. This podcast is about showing up in the mess, not waiting until it's all sorted out. If today
you're navigating your own version of chaos, we'd love to hear about it. And if you're navigating your own version of chaos, we'd love to hear about it. Leave a comment.
We'll be back soon
or join
with
the
more
conversation.
honest talk, less pressure. We'll be back soon with more honest talk, less pressure, and
see you next time on Chaos, Courage and Coffee. See you next time on Chaos, Courage and Coffee.